Greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome back to the latest installment for these Hammer films I've been going through from this 20-film Blu-ray set. For those who are new to my channel, I like to make videos about mainly films, but occasionally games, books, TV shows, what have you, that I enjoyed and I want to share. However, with this film set, it's a case where I decided I'm going to make a video about every single film in the set, whether I liked it or not. But before I begin, if you enjoy this video, please consider subscribing and hitting that bell icon so you get a notification for when I put up new content, which is usually 1 to 2 times a week. Occasionally I'll work in a third or a fourth, depending on what there is to talk about. Be sure to check out my back catalog while I'm here, see if there's any other videos that you enjoy. And be sure to stick around to the end and share both this video and this channel around, as it really does help the channel out quite a bit. Now that all that YouTube stuff is out of the way, let's jump into this latest review, which is for the Camp on Blood Island from 1958, and the synopsis for this film is as follows. Deep in the Malaya, as World War II is rapidly coming to an end, men, women, and children trapped by the Japanese invasion are held captive in the Blood Island prison camp. Knowing that Yamamitsu, the sadistic commandant, will murder them all when he learns of his country's defeat, Dutch, a Dutch planter, smashes a camp radio. British officer Lambert and, in the women's prison, the recently widowed Kate join Dutch in arming the prisoners. So yeah, we've got a war movie here. Got a war movie on our hands with this set, and an interesting, intense one, seeing what all these prisoners are going through. And there are some familiar faces for me in this film as well. So we got Michael Gwynn, who I was mainly familiar with. He's been in a few of these films, but the first one that I did a review for that he was in, I believe, was The Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll. So I'll put up a link for that. Marnie Maitland, who was in Stranglers of Bombay, also in this set, another more recent film that I did a review for. And a very young Phil Brown, who you may know from this old film from the 70s called Star Wars. He played some character named Uncle Owen. And finally, Andre Morel, who I'm familiar with from Cash on Demand, which so far has been my favorite movie in this set. And speaking of Andre Morel, he really did hold this film together. I mean, he has a really commanding screen presence, and seeing him as a leader of these prisoners was easy to accept and get pulled right into this story. The characters at both this camp and the second one that has the women and children, you get pulled into everything that's going on. And, just in general, this character that he plays keeps popping in to kind of reel you back in. We'll kind of go off, learn a little bit something, come back, and he'll kind of just, with that presence, just pull you right back into the story. And there seemed to be much more production value in this film as well. They did a decent job of having, the Japanese soldiers at least come across like they are breaking these rules of war when it comes to the treatment of prisoners because of the influence of their commandant, rather than trying to paint all Japanese as terrible as, the ones in this camp. Of course, we still have a bit of a whitewashing issue, considering the time that this film was made. Though there are some Asian descent actors in this, there are some other races stepping in for Japanese, and some which either put on a very poor and borderline offensive accent, or the Japanese that they are speaking is obviously not their native tongue, if they're speaking Japanese at all, because though I picked up on a few words here and there from what little I remember from Japanese, there was just a big muddled mess, so it sounded more like they were doing an impression of somebody speaking Japanese and occasionally getting one word right. But the only other negative thing I could think to even bring up about this film would probably be the filming style and the lighting. Most of it takes place outdoors, but there were many cases where it was kind of difficult to know if it was night or day, or if they were shooting day for night, where they try to change that contrast and that lighting afterward. So there were some times where I kind of lost track a little bit about what time was passing, what time of day it was, and so forth. But these are all very minor annoyances in the film. Ultimately, this one is pretty solid, and even works in aspects of war we may not, think much of, such as dealing with not just the aftermath of men leading into a battle, and men led into a battle and being killed, so you are kind of responsible if you're their commander, but also when one is directly responsible for another soldier's death, due to friendly fire. Needless to say, I really do feel that this one is worth checking out. At the time of this video, it's not only available in this Hammer film set, but it's also on YouTube as well, so I'll go ahead and put a link to that, as well as links to some of the other Hammer films for some of the actors that I mentioned in here, if you want to check out some of those in the description below. But yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. And speaking of checking out, Thanks for checking out this video and sticking around to the end, because like all that other YouTube stuff that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, all that stuff really does help out a lot. I hope you enjoyed it. So there you have it. The camp on Blood Island from 1958. Check it out, and I will see you in the next one.